She drowned in an infinity pool under a sky full of stars, held down by the hands of the man who promised to save her family. Marina Rivera was 28 years old when she died, but her death certificate would tell a different story. Accidental drowning, too much wine, a tragic mistake. The truth was far darker. She was murdered for trying to save her sister from the same nightmare that almost consumed her. This is the story of how love became a weapon, how trust became a trap, and how one woman's courage to expose evil cost her everything. How does a dancer fall in love with her trafficker? How does desperation blind us to danger? How does a sister's love lead to murder? Tonight, we uncover the chilling events that led to one of Dubai's most hidden crimes. A murder disguised as an accident, a trafficking ring protected by power, and a woman whose only crime was loving the wrong man. Marina Luz Rivera was born on August 3, 1995, in Tanda, Manila, one of the most densely populated slums in the world. Picture this. 16,000 people crammed into a single square kilometer, houses built on top of houses, alleys so narrow 2 people can barely pass each other, the smell of sewage mixing with cooking fires, children playing in streets flooded with garbage. This was Marina's childhood. Her mother, Rosa, was 52 years old and worked as a domestic helper, cleaning houses for wealthy Filipino families in Makati, Manila's financial district. She left home at 5 every morning and returned at 9 every night, earning $4 a day. Marina's father abandoned the family when she was 7 years old, leaving Rosa to raise 3 children alone in a 10 by 10-foot room with walls made of corrugated metal and a roof that leaked every time it rained. Marina had 2 younger siblings. Carmina, born in 1999, was a beautiful girl with dreams of becoming a nurse. Paolo, the youngest, born in 2007, was brilliant in school despite having no books, no computer, no desk to study on. The 3 children slept on a single mattress on the floor. They bathed from buckets filled with water from a communal tap. They ate rice twice a day if they were lucky, 3 times if their mother found extra work. But Marina was special. Even in the worst poverty, even surrounded by hopelessness, she refused to give up. She loved reading, spending hours at the local barangay library, devouring romance novels and dreaming of a different life. She was top of her class every single year, graduating valedictorian from Tanda High School in 2012. Her dream was to become a teacher. She wanted to help children like herself, kids who had nothing but hope. In 2012, at age 17, Marina received a full academic scholarship to the University of the Philippines, one of the most prestigious universities in the country. For 6 months, her life was perfect. She studied education, made friends, discovered a world beyond Tanda's narrow alleys. Then her mother got sick. Rosa was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a disease that should be easily treatable, but kills thousands of poor Filipinos every year because they can't afford the medication. The treatment cost $400 per month. Marina's scholarship covered tuition but not living expenses, not her family's survival. After 1 semester, Marina dropped out. She was 18 years old, and her dreams died in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and death. For the next 7 years, Marina worked every job she could find. She was a sales clerk at a department store in Divisoria, earning $150 a month, standing for 12 hours a day. She worked at a call center, handling customer complaints for an American credit card company, earning $300 a month for 8-hour night shifts that destroyed her sleep schedule. She waitressed at a restaurant in Bonifacio Global City, earning $200 a month plus tips, smiling at wealthy customers who spent more on one meal than her family earned in a week. But it was never enough. Her mother's medication costs drained everything. Her brother needed school supplies, uniforms, tuition for high school. Carmina was forced to drop out of community college at 18 to work in a garment factory, sewing clothes for export, earning $3 a day. Marina was 25 years old when she made the promise that would change everything. Sitting beside her mother's bed in their tiny room, watching Rosa struggle to breathe, Marina whispered, "Ma, I will get us out of this. Whatever it takes. I promise." She had no idea that promise would lead her to Dubai, to Viktor Kozlov, to an infinity pool under desert stars where she would take her last breath. The advertisement appeared on Facebook in September 2021. Dancers wanted. Dubai employment. Earn $1,200 per month plus tips plus housing. Entertainment visa. Female 21 to 30. Attractive, professional. Apply now. Marina saw dozens of these ads every day. Most were scams, but this one came from Golden Opportunities Employment Services, a licensed agency in Quezon City with an actual office, government permits, testimonials from successful workers. Marina made an appointment. The recruiter's name was Josie, a woman in her 40s who wore designer clothes and gold jewelry that caught the fluorescent office lights. Her desk was covered with photos of Filipina women posing in front of Burj Khalifa, shopping at Dubai Mall, sitting in expensive restaurants. "This could be you," Josie said, sliding the photos across the desk. Dubai is the land of opportunity. You work as an entertainer, a dancer. Clean clubs, respectful management, wealthy clientele who tip very well. My girls send home $2,000, sometimes $3,000 every month. Marina asked the questions she'd rehearsed. What exactly do I have to do? Is it just dancing? Are there other expectations? Josie's smile never wavered. Just dancing and socializing with customers. You encourage them to buy drinks, you're friendly and professional. Some girls do private bookings for extra money, but that's completely optional. Nobody forces you to do anything you don't want to do. The lie was delivered so smoothly that Marina believed every word. The visa processing fee was $2,000. Marina didn't have $2,000. She went to a loan shark in Tanda, a man named Mang Tomas who charged 5% interest per week. She signed papers she barely read, borrowed the money, and paid Golden Opportunities. 3 weeks later, she had her employment visa, her plane ticket, and a promise from Josie. 6 months, Marina. Work hard for 6 months, and you'll change your family's life forever. On September 15, 2021, Marina stood in Ninoy Aquino International Airport, hugging her mother for what would be the last time, though neither of them knew it. Rosa held her daughter's face in her hands and whispered, "Be careful, Anik. The world is not always kind to girls like us." Marina promised she would. She promised she'd send money every week. She promised she'd come home for Christmas. She kept the first 2 promises. The third promise would be broken by a man she hadn't met yet, a man who was, at that exact moment, sitting in his Palm Jumeirah villa, reviewing applications from Golden Opportunities Employment Services, looking for his next recruit. Viktor Mikhailovich Kozlov was born on March 22, 1978, in Ekaterinburg, Russia, an industrial city in the Ural Mountains where winter lasts 8 months and hope dies young. His father, Mikhail, was a low-ranking Soviet military officer who spent his salary on vodka and his evenings beating Viktor's mother, Svetlana, a schoolteacher who taught mathematics and quietly endured her husband's fists because divorce was shameful and survival was expensive. Viktor was 14 when his father died from liver failure, collapsing on the kitchen floor after a 3-day drinking binge. Viktor watched it happen. He felt nothing. Years later, he would tell Marina that his father's death taught him the most important lesson of his life. Power and control prevent vulnerability. Emotion is weakness. Trust is dangerous. At 16, Viktor joined a street gang in Ekaterinburg's industrial district. He ran protection rackets, collected debts, and discovered he had a talent most people lack. He could read people. He knew when someone was lying, when they were afraid, when they were desperate. He knew exactly what to say to make them trust him, exactly how much pressure to apply to make them obey. By 18, as the Soviet Union collapsed and Russia descended into chaos, Viktor was working for the Ekaterinburg Mafia, trafficking women from Moldova and Ukraine to Western Europe. The girls were told they'd work as waitresses, as nannies, as hotel staff. They arrived in Germany or France or Italy and discovered the truth. Viktor learned another lesson. Women were commodities, renewable resources, business inventory. They wanted to escape poverty. He provided opportunity. If they didn't like the terms, that was their problem. In 2008, at age 30, Viktor Kozlov arrived in Dubai with $500,000 in cash, connections to Chechen criminal networks, and a plan. Dubai was perfect. Massive construction boom, millions of migrant workers, a legal system that favored employers over employees, and a culture that looked the other way as long as you were rich and discreet. He opened his first club in Dubai in 2009. A small operation with 20 dancers, mostly Russian and Ukrainian girls recruited through the same agencies he'd used in Europe. By 2015, he owned 3 clubs across Dubai and employed over 200 women. His system was elegant. Bring girls in on entertainment visas, confiscate their passports for safekeeping, create immediate debt through inflated housing and visa fees, gradually introduce them to private bookings with wealthy clients, and make it clear that resistance had consequences. Victor presented himself as a legitimate businessman, a philanthropist who helped poor women find opportunity in the wealthy Gulf. He donated to charities, attended Emirati business functions, and cultivated relationships with powerful people who could protect his operation. The reality was a trafficking network that generated millions of dollars annually. But Victor had learned from his mentor's mistake back in Russia. Never let emotion override business. Never trust anyone completely. And never leave witnesses who could destroy you. Marina Rivera was about to become both his greatest mistake and his final victim. But first, she had to fall in love with him. Marina Rivera stepped off Emirates Flight EK332 at Dubai International Airport at 11:15 on a September night in 2021, and the heat hit her like a physical force. 42 degrees Celsius. Even at night, air so thick with humidity it felt like breathing underwater. She'd never experienced heat like this. Manila was tropical, but this was different. Aggressive, unnatural, the kind of heat that reminded you that humans weren't meant to live in deserts. She followed the crowd through immigration, her passport stamped with a 6-month entertainment visa, her suitcase containing everything she owned. 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, a rosary her mother had given her, and a photograph of her family taken on her last day in Manila. Outside arrivals, a man held a sign, "Golden Opportunities." 8 other Filipina women stood beside Marina in the van, all between 21 and 30 years old, all wearing the same expression. Hope mixed with fear, excitement mixed with uncertainty. Nobody spoke during the 40-minute drive to International City, a massive housing complex on the outskirts of Dubai where migrant workers lived packed together like sardines in a can. The apartment was a 2-bedroom unit on the 7th floor of a building that looked exactly like every other building in the complex. 6 girls would share this space, 3 to a bedroom, 2 sharing bunk beds in each room, fighting for bathroom time every morning. The orientation happened the next day. A woman named Patricia, 35, Filipina, who'd worked for Victor for 5 years, explained the rules. Passports stay with management for visa processing. You'll get them back when you leave. Work schedule is 6 nights per week, 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. You get Mondays off. Your salary is $1,200 per month, but you owe the company $2,000 for visa processing fees, so your first 2 months' salary goes to paying that debt. After that, you keep your earnings plus tips. You're required to sell champagne. For every bottle a customer buys, you get 10% commission. Private bookings are available if you want extra money. Management takes 30% of private booking fees. Marina wanted to ask what private bookings meant, but the answer was in Patricia's eyes, dead, flat. The look of someone who'd stopped asking questions years ago. That night, Marina put on the required uniform. A black dress that barely covered her thighs, heels so high she could barely walk, makeup that made her look 5 years older, and reported to Velvet Lounge in Dubai International Financial Center. The club was everything the photos promised. Glass towers surrounding it, expensive cars in the valet parking, men in custom suits and Emirati thobes walking through doors held open by security guards who looked like they could break you in half. Inside, the music pounded so loud Marina felt it in her chest. Russian techno mixed with Arabic pop, lights strobing across a dance floor filled with women in dresses and men with money. Marina's job was simple. Dance on stage during designated sets. Walk between tables during breaks, smiling, making conversation, encouraging customers to buy bottles of champagne that cost $500 each. Be friendly. Be available. Be whatever the customer wanted you to be. By midnight on her first night, Marina understood exactly what kind of club this was. She watched girls leave with customers, saw them return 2 hours later with cash in their purses and something dead in their eyes. She heard the other dancers whisper about RAK rotations, Ras Al Khaimah, a city 90 minutes north, where girls were sent for weekend bookings at private villas. She noticed how management kept the girls separate, Russians with Russians, Filipinas with Filipinas, Ukrainians with Ukrainians, preventing them from organizing, from comparing stories, from realizing they were all trapped in the same system. But Marina told herself she was different. She wasn't going to do private bookings. She was just going to dance, sell champagne, save money, and go home in 6 months. She repeated this to herself like a prayer, like if she believed it hard enough, it would be true. September 20th, 2021, 11:47 p.m. Marina was on stage, her second song of the night, dancing to a remix of Despacito, when she saw him for the first time. He walked into the club like he owned it because he did, and every employee's posture changed. The manager straightened his tie. The bartenders moved faster. The security guards stood at attention. Viktor Kozlov was 6'1", 43 years old, with silver hair cut short and blue eyes that missed nothing. He wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than Marina would earn in 6 months. He moved through the club slowly, scanning faces, checking operations, and when his eyes landed on Marina dancing on stage, he stopped walking. After her set, the club manager appeared beside her. "Marina, Mr. Kozlov wants to meet you. Come with me." She followed him to the VIP section, a raised platform overlooking the dance floor, where Viktor sat alone at a table covered with bottles he hadn't opened. "Sit," he said, and his voice was surprisingly gentle, a baritone with a slight Russian accent that made every word sound like a secret. Marina sat. "What's your name?" he asked. "Marina Rivera, sir." "How long have you been in Dubai?" "Marina Rivera?" 4 days. "And what do you think of my club?" She hesitated, then decided honesty was safer than flattery. "It's beautiful, intimidating, not what I expected." He smiled, and the smile transformed his face from intimidating to almost kind. "What did you expect?" "I thought I'd just be dancing. I didn't realize there would be other expectations." Viktor leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You're different from the other girls. They pretend they're here for adventure, for excitement. You're honest about why you're here. I appreciate that." They talked for an hour. He asked about her family, her mother's illness, her dreams of becoming a teacher. He listened, actually listened, in a way that made Marina feel seen for the first time since arriving in this strange, glittering city. He didn't touch her inappropriately. He didn't ask for a private booking. He just talked to her like she was a person, not inventory. At 1 a.m., he handed her an envelope. "For your time. I enjoyed our conversation." Inside was 1,000 dirhams, $270. More than she'd earn in 3 nights of regular work. "Tomorrow is your night off, yes?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "Have dinner with me. Proper dinner, not club business. I'll send a car to pick you up at 7. Marina knew she should say no. She knew this was how it started, how girls got pulled deeper into the system. But she thought about the money in the envelope, about her mother's medication, about Carmina working in that factory, and she heard herself say, "Okay." The courtship began on September 21st, 2021, and it was perfect. Viktor took her to Pier Chic, the floating restaurant on a pier extending into the Arabian Gulf, where they ate seafood that cost more than Marina's monthly rent and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. He told her a sanitized version of his story. Came from Russia, built his business from nothing, understood what it meant to struggle. He asked about her dreams, and when she said she still wanted to be a teacher someday, he said, "Then you will be. I'll help you." It was the first promise. There would be many more, and Marina would believe every single one. Within 3 months, Viktor Kozlov had done what he'd done to dozens of girls before Marina. He made her feel special. He moved her out of the shared apartment into a studio in Business Bay. Just her, no roommates. A place with a real kitchen and a bathtub and windows that overlooked the city. He reduced her work schedule from 6 nights to 4. He gave her a company credit card for expenses. He sent money directly to her mother in Manila, $1,500 every month. no questions asked. And he introduced her to his world. Dinners at his Palm Jumeirah villa, a 5-bedroom beachfront property where his German shepherd, Boris, greeted her like she belonged there. Walks on the beach. Phone calls where he asked about her day and actually remembered her answers. Shopping trips where he bought her dresses worth more than she used to earn in a year. On Christmas Day, 2021, 3 months after they met, Victor gave Marina diamond earrings worth $8,000 and said the words she'd been waiting to hear. "You're not just another girl who works for me, Marina. You're my girlfriend. You're special." And Marina believed him. She believed him because she wanted to believe him, because the alternative was admitting that everything she'd built in Dubai was based on a lie, because loving Viktor Kozlov was easier than facing the truth about what his business really was. She noticed things, of course. She saw girls disappear after special bookings. She heard whispers about villas in Ras Al Khaimah where girls were kept for days. She saw the fear in the eyes of new recruits, the way they looked at her with a mixture of envy and pity. Envy because she was Victor's girlfriend, pity because she was too blind to see what that really meant. Once, she found a Thai girl named Jasmine crying in the dressing room, bruises on her arms that looked like fingerprints. Marina asked what happened. Jasmine just shook her head and whispered, "Don't ask questions. It's safer if you don't know." But Marina didn't ask questions. She rationalized everything. These girls knew what they were getting into, she told herself. Victor keeps me separate from that side of the business. I'm different. He loves me. She sent money home every month. Her mother's health improved. Carmina enrolled in community college. Paolo got new school uniforms. Marina convinced herself that this was worth it, that whatever happened to the other girls wasn't her responsibility, that she could love Victor and ignore the darkness that funded their relationship. For 11 months, Marina Rivera lived in willful blindness. She played the role of the boss's girlfriend, enjoyed the privileges, and ignored the screams she sometimes heard through the walls of Victor's office when he dealt with problematic employees. She told herself that she was lucky, that she'd found a way out of poverty that didn't require her to do what the other girls did. She told herself that Victor was different, that their love was real, that she was safe. Then her sister arrived in Dubai, and everything Marina had built on lies collapsed in less than a week. September 2022. Marina had been in Dubai for exactly 1 year when her mother called with news that would destroy everything. "Anik, Carmina wants to come to Dubai. She dropped out of college. She says there's no point studying when she can earn more money working like you. Can Victor help her get a visa?" Marina felt something cold settle in her stomach, a feeling she couldn't name but recognized as warning. "Ma, maybe she should finish school first. I can send more money. She doesn't need to come here." But Rosa Rivera was tired, so tired of being poor, tired of rationing rice, tired of choosing between electricity and medicine. "Marina, your brother wants to go to university. Paolo could be a doctor, but we need money for his tuition. If Carmina works for just 2 years, we can save enough. Please, Anik, ask Victor." That night, Marina lay beside Victor in his Palm Jumeirah villa, listening to waves crash against the private beach, and mentioned it so casually she almost convinced herself it didn't matter. "Baby, my sister Carmina wants to work in Dubai. She's 23, smart, pretty. Do you think you could help arrange her visa?" Victor was scrolling through his phone, barely paying attention, and his response came too quickly, too eagerly. "Of course, Mahal Ko. Family is important. I'll make some calls tomorrow. Send me her passport details and photos." The ease of his agreement should have been Marina's first warning. The second warning came when she heard him on the phone an hour later, speaking in rapid Russian to someone, and the only words she understood were "Manila sister" and "perfect recruit." Marina tried to convince herself she was being paranoid. Victor loved her. He wouldn't hurt her family. But she'd been in Dubai long enough to know what happened to the girls who worked private rotations. She'd seen Jasmine's bruises. She'd heard the whispers about villas in Ras Al Khaimah where girls were locked in rooms with wealthy men who paid $5,000 for a weekend. She'd noticed how new girls arrived excited and hopeful, then became hollow-eyed and silent within months. She told herself Carmina would be different, that Victor would protect her sister the way he protected Marina. She told herself these lies and almost believed them. Carmina Rivera arrived at Dubai International Airport on September 28, 2022, wearing a yellow dress their mother had sewn by hand, carrying a suitcase held together with rope, her eyes wide with wonder at the glass towers and luxury cars and the impossible wealth surrounding her. Marina picked her up, hugged her for the first time in a year, and felt her sister's heartbeat against her chest. Fast, excited, trusting. 8. It's so beautiful here. You're so lucky. Thank you for helping me come. I'm going to work so hard. We're going to save so much money for the family. Marina held her sister tighter and whispered a prayer she'd forgotten she knew. Please, God, let me be wrong about this. Please let her be safe. The first week was perfect. Carmina stayed in Marina's apartment in Business Bay, sleeping on the couch, talking late into the night about their dreams, their family, their future. Victor personally handled Carmina's orientation, the same charming script he'd used on Marina. You're special. You're going to do very well here. I take care of my girls. He assigned Carmina to work at Velvet Lounge's main floor, standard schedule, dancing and selling champagne. Marina watched her sister on stage and saw herself from a year ago, naive, hopeful, believing she could work in this world without being destroyed by it. For 7 days, everything seemed fine. Then October 5th happened. Marina arrived at the club at 9 p.m. for her shift, scanning the floor for her sister. Carmina wasn't there. Marina checked the dressing room, the VIP section, the back offices. Nothing. She found Patricia, the senior Filipina manager, and asked, "Where's Carmina?" Patricia wouldn't meet her eyes. Private rotation. Boss's orders. She'll be back tomorrow. The world tilted. Marina called Victor 6 times. No answer. She texted, "Where is my sister?" The response came 20 minutes later. "She's fine. Working. Don't worry." But Marina did worry. She paced her apartment until 2 a.m., remembering every warning sign she'd ignored, every rationalization she'd made, every girl who'd disappeared into private bookings and come back broken. Carmina returned at 2:17 in the morning on October 6th. Marina heard the key in the lock and ran to the door. Her sister stood in the hallway, makeup smeared across her face like war paint, walking with a strange, careful gait, refusing to make eye contact. "Carmina, what happened? Where were you?" Her sister walked past her into the bathroom and locked the door. Marina pressed her ear against it and heard crying, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deeper than sadness, the sound of something fundamental breaking inside a person. "Carmina, please, talk to me. Open the door." 20 minutes of silence. Then the lock clicked. Carmina sat on the bathroom floor, still wearing the black dress the club had given her. And when she finally spoke, her voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone reporting facts because feeling them would be unbearable. "They took me to a villa in Ras Al Khaimah. 3 men were waiting, Emirati businessmen, friends of Victor's partner. The driver said, 'Entertain them.' I thought he meant dance, serve drinks, be friendly. They locked me in a bedroom. They took my phone. The villa staff held our passports at the front desk. The men." She stopped, closed her eyes, continued in that terrible monotone. "For hours, 8. For hours. Then they gave me 2,000 dirhams cash and said, 'You did well. You'll work private rotation twice a week now. Saturday and Wednesday. Don't make problems.'" Marina felt something shatter inside her chest. The sound of every lie she told herself for 11 months breaking all at once. No, this can't be happening. Victor said you'd work at the club. He promised. He said. Carmina looked at her sister with an expression Marina would never forget, pity mixed with contempt. The look of someone who just discovered their hero was complicit in their destruction. 8. They all know. The other girls told me everything. Victor runs an escort service. The club is just the front. The dancing is just recruitment. You're the only one who didn't know because he kept you separate, made you feel special so you'd trust him. She paused, and what she said next would haunt Marina for the rest of her very short life. They said you were his recruiter girl, that you're so in love with him you brought your own sister into the system. That's why he wanted to help me, because you delivered me to him. The truth hit Marina like a physical blow. She ran to the bathroom and vomited, her body rejecting the reality it could no longer deny. Everything made sense now: why Victor was so eager to help Carmina, why he'd made Marina his girlfriend, why he'd kept her separate from the trafficking operations while letting her see just enough to normalize it. She wasn't special. She was a tool. Her love was the weapon they'd used to acquire her sister. She'd delivered Carmina to monsters because she was too blind, too desperate, too in love to see what Victor really was. At 4 a.m., sitting on the bathroom floor with her sister, Marina made the decision that would lead to her murder. "I'm going to destroy him." Carmina grabbed her arm. No. You don't understand how powerful he is. The girls say he has connections to police, to government officials. Girls who cause problems disappear. Just disappeared. We leave. We go home. We forget this happened. But Marina shook her head. If we leave, he just does this to more girls. More sisters. More daughters. Someone has to stop him. She pulled out her phone and opened Facebook Messenger, scrolling to a name she hadn't contacted in 2 years. Dallas Navarro, her childhood friend from Manila who now worked for International Human Rights Watch in Dubai. I need to tell you something. Can we meet? It's urgent. Life or death. The response came immediately. Marina, it's 4 a.m. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. I need help exposing someone. A trafficker. Can we meet today? A pause. Then, cafe in JBR, 3 p.m. Come alone. If this is what I think it is, you're in serious danger. Marina looked at her sister, still sitting on the bathroom floor in a dress she'd been raped in, and typed, I know, but some things are worth dying for. October 7th, 3 p.m. Jumeirah Beach Residence, a cafe with outdoor seating where Marina could watch for surveillance. Though she didn't yet know Victor had people watching her everywhere. Dallas arrived exactly on time, 32 years old, former journalist, now working in human rights documentation, someone who'd seen enough horror to recognize it in Marina's eyes before she even spoke. They ordered coffee neither of them would drink, and Marina told everything. The recruitment, the passport confiscation, the debt bondage, the private bookings, what happened to Carmina. Every detail she'd ignored for 11 months, because love made her blind and desperation made her complicit. Dallas listened without interrupting, taking notes on her phone, and when Marina finished, she asked the only question that mattered. Can you get evidence? Documents, photos, messages? Without evidence, it's just your word against a wealthy businessman with connections. They'll deport you and nothing will change. Marina thought about Victor's villa, the office she'd been in twice, the key he'd given her 3 months ago when he said, I trust you completely, Mahal Ko. My home is your home. She thought about the wall safe where she'd once seen him store passports. She thought about his computer, always logged in, messages and emails accessible. Yes, she said, I can get evidence. He's meeting with his Emirati partners Thursday night. Business dinner at Burj Al Arab will be gone 3 to 4 hours. I'll do it then. Dallas reached across the table and gripped Marina's hand. Listen to me very carefully. Men like Viktor Kozlov don't just run trafficking operations. They kill people. If he finds out what you're doing, you won't get deported. You won't get fired. You'll disappear. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? Marina thought about Carmina's dead eyes, about the Thai girl with bruises, about all the women who'd passed through Velvet Lounge in the year she'd worked there, about the sisters and daughters who would come after if someone didn't stop this. I'm sure. What happens to me doesn't matter. Stopping him matters. They made a plan. Marina would access Victor's office on Thursday night, photograph everything she could find. Documents, ledgers, passports, computer files, messages. She'd send everything to Dallas via encrypted app. Dallas would verify the evidence, contact international authorities, coordinate with anti-trafficking organizations. They'd expose the entire network, Victor, his Emirati partners, the visa brokers, the corrupt officials who enabled it. After you send the files, you disappear immediately, Dallas insisted. Don't go home. Don't pack. Don't tell anyone. I'll arrange emergency shelter. We get you and your sister to the Philippines embassy. claim asylum, get you both out of the country before Victor knows what happened. Marina agreed to everything, but in her heart, she'd already made a different decision. She wouldn't run until she got Carmina out first. She wouldn't leave Dubai until she knew her sister was safe. This decision, choosing her sister's safety over her own, would be the last decision Marina Rivera ever made. As they left the cafe, Dallasay hugged her and whispered, "Be careful. These men are monsters." Marina whispered back, "I know. I loved one." What she didn't know was that one of Victor's security contractors was sitting 3 tables away, photographing their entire meeting, sending real-time updates to his employer. Victor already knew Marina was planning something. He just didn't know what yet. October 12th arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, gentle breeze, temperature dropping to a comfortable 30 degrees as evening approached. Victor told Marina over breakfast that he had a business dinner at Burj Al Arab. Boring meeting with the Emirati partners. Investment discussions, contract negotiations. "I'll be back late. Don't wait up, Mahal Ko." He kissed her forehead, and Marina felt nothing. No love, no attraction, no trust. Just cold determination and the terrible knowledge that she was about to betray the man she'd loved for 11 months. She waited 30 minutes after he left, then drove to his Palm Jumeirah villa using the key card he'd given her. Her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. 9:47 p.m. Marina stood outside Victor's home office, the door locked with a keypad she knew the code to, his mother's birthday. Something he told her during one of those intimate conversations when she thought he was being vulnerable instead of strategically sharing information to build false intimacy. She typed the 6 digits. The lock clicked. She pushed the door open and stepped into the room where she'd find the evidence that would destroy Victor's empire and seal her own death warrant. The office was exactly as she remembered: dark wood furniture, massive desk, wall safe, filing cabinets, computer setup that looked like it belonged to a Fortune 500 company. She pulled out her phone, turned on the camera, and began documenting everything that would prove Victor Kozlov was a monster. The filing cabinets were unlocked, a detail that should have warned Marina that Victor wasn't as careless as he appeared. She pulled open the first drawer and found folders organized alphabetically, each labeled with a girl's name. She opened one at random: Jasmine Chun, DOB August 15, 1998, Thailand. Inside was a photo of the Thai girl Marina had seen crying in the dressing room, along with a document titled Employment Contract that was actually an itemized list of debts. Visa processing fee, housing deposit, training costs, clothing advance totaling $8,000. Below that, a payment record showing Jasmine had worked for 7 months and still owed $6,000 because of fines for refusing bookings, missing shifts, and attitude problems. There were 23 folders in the first drawer alone. Marina photographed every page of 5 folders before moving to the second drawer. The ledger was in the third drawer, a handwritten accounting book that documented Victor's operation with business school precision. Each page represented 1 month. Each entry showed a girl's name, the client, the booking fee, the girl's payment, and Victor's profit. Marina's hands shook as she photographed page after page. Carmina Rivera, October 5, 22, RAK Villa booking, client, AH plus 2 guests, fee, $8,000, payment to girl, $2,000, profit, $6,000. Her sister had been sold for $8,000, paid $2,000, while Victor pocketed $6,000 for 4 hours of her suffering. The math was there in black ink: 300 women over 5 years, an average of $15,000 profit per girl per month, total revenue exceeding $20 million. The wall safe took 3 tries because Marina's fingers kept slipping on the dial. Left to 15, right to 08, left to 78. His mother's birthday, August 15, 1978. The safe door swung open. Inside was cash, stacks of $100 bills in rubber bands. Marina estimated $200,000. Below the cash were passports, dozens of them held together with binder clips. Marina pulled them out and spread them on Victor's desk. 47 passports. Filipina, Thai, Ukrainian, Russian, Vietnamese. Women aged 20 to 34. She photographed the identification pages of every single one. documenting the faces of women who couldn't leave Dubai because Victor controlled their only form of identification. At the bottom of the safe was a leather notebook, expensive Italian leather, the kind of notebook wealthy men use for important information. Marina opened it and found handwritten entries in Victor's precise script: client names, phone numbers, preferences, payment histories. Sheikh AH, prefers Filipinas. Age 20 to 25, submissive personality, pays $15,000 for weekend bookings. Russian businessman DP, interested in Ukrainian girls. Blonde, will pay $20,000 for week-long arrangements. Local business partner, multiple girls for corporate events, $50,000 per event, discretion essential. There were over 60 clients listed, each entry a roadmap to the men who funded Victor's trafficking network. She photographed every page, her phone's storage filling up with evidence that could destroy not just Victor but dozens of wealthy, powerful men across the UAE. Then she moved to his computer. Victor's laptop sat on his desk, logged into his accounts because he never expected someone with access to his office to betray him. Marina opened his WhatsApp. The messages made her physically ill. She photographed conversations that read like shopping lists for human beings. New shipment from Manila arrives Thursday. 3 girls, ages 22 to 26. Send photos when processed. The Filipina you sent last week was perfect. Client wants her again. Book her for next Saturday. Girl number 47 is causing problems. Recommend immediate deportation. Too risky to keep. She found the message thread about Carmina, sent the day after Marina had asked Victor to help her sister. Manila's sister confirmed. Perfect recruit. Rivera girl is completely hooked. Will deliver family without suspicion. Marina read that message 3 times, each time feeling something inside her die a little more. Victor had used her love to acquire her sister. He'd spent 11 months grooming Marina specifically so she'd trust him enough to bring her family into his operation. She wasn't his girlfriend. She was a recruitment tool. Every dinner, every gift, every whispered "I love you" had been strategy, not romance. She photographed the message thread, her tears blurring the phone screen, then moved to his email. The emails were worse. Conversations with visa brokers discussing procurement costs for women from Southeast Asia. Messages to his Emirati business partner, the man Marina had met twice, who'd smiled at her and called her Victor's beautiful girlfriend. Planning expansion into Saudi Arabia, discussing profit projections, sharing photos of new recruits with ratings like they were reviewing products on Amazon. One email, sent just 3 days ago, made Marina's blood freeze. MS is asking too many questions since sister's arrival. Recommend close monitoring. If she becomes a problem, usual protocols apply. Victor had known she was suspicious. He'd been watching her, preparing for the possibility that she might need to be eliminated. Marina thought about the girls who'd disappeared, the ones other dancers whispered about, and wondered how many of them were buried in the desert. Their families back home told they'd run away or gotten deported. She photographed everything, 237 photos documenting a trafficking empire that operated with impunity in one of the world's wealthiest cities. At 10:52 p.m., Marina sent everything to Dallas via an encrypted messaging app, 237 files uploading slowly over Victor's home Wi-Fi. While they transferred, she returned everything to its original position. Folders back in drawers, passports in the safe, notebook at the bottom, cash stacked neatly. She closed the safe, spun the dial, locked the office door, and walked out of the villa believing she'd just destroyed Victor Kozlov. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known because Victor was far more careful than she'd imagined, was that 6 hidden cameras had recorded her entire 71-minute visit. One camera inside the bookshelf, angled at the filing cabinets. One behind the desk photo frame, capturing her face as she photographed documents. One in the potted plant by the window showing her accessing the safe. One inside the AC vent recording her at the computer. One behind the wall clock, catching her sending files on her phone. One in the overhead light fixture, providing a wide-angle view of the entire office. Marina drove home, sat in her car outside her apartment building, and allowed herself to cry for the first time since this nightmare began. She cried for Carmina, for Jasmine, for all the girls who'd trusted the wrong people. She cried for herself, for the naive woman who'd believed a trafficker loved her. Then she wiped her eyes, went upstairs and told her sister, "It's over. I got the evidence. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we go to the Philippines embassy. They can't touch us there. We claim asylum, get emergency travel documents, go home to Manila. Dallas is contacting international authorities tonight. By the time Victor realizes what happened, we'll be gone." Carmina hugged her, and for the first time since arriving in Dubai, she smiled. "Thank you, 8. Thank you for saving us." Marina held her sister and thought about their mother, about Paolo, about the life they'd have when this was over. She didn't know that in Victor's villa, her former lover was watching footage of her betrayal with no expression on his face, already planning her murder with the same cold efficiency he'd used to build his empire. She didn't know that Dallas's phone would be remotely wiped within hours by someone with serious technical capabilities and government connections. She didn't know that the evidence she'd risked everything to gather would never reach the authorities because Victor's Emirati partner had people inside Dubai police, inside the telecommunications companies, inside every system that might threaten their operation. October 13th, 8:30 a.m. Victor arrived at his villa after spending the night at his DIFC apartment, maintaining the appearance of a normal business schedule. He made coffee, fed Boris, checked his office. Everything looked undisturbed, exactly as he'd left it. He opened his laptop and accessed the security camera footage. The system stored 7 days of recordings, motion-activated, time-stamped. He scrolled to October 12th, 9:47 p.m., and watched Marina enter his office. He watched her photograph his files. He watched her open his safe. He watched her send data via phone. He watched her spend 71 minutes documenting everything that could destroy him. His face showed no emotion, no anger, no betrayal, no surprise. Just the cold calculation of a predator deciding how to eliminate a threat. He picked up his phone and called a number saved under a single letter, A. The voice that answered spoke Arabic. Victor responded in English. "We have a problem." The girl. "Yes, Marina." She copied everything. "Last night while I was at dinner." A pause while the voice on the other end responded. Then Victor. "Already planned. Thursday night was a test. I suspected she was compromised after the sister arrived. The security contractor confirmed she met with someone from Human Rights Watch. This was inevitable." Another pause. "No, I'll handle it personally. Friday night. The desert house. I'll make it look like accidental drowning. You handle the evidence trail and the journalist friend." The conversation lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, Victor poured himself another cup of coffee and composed a text message to Marina. His fingers steady, his breathing calm, the message carefully crafted to sound loving and unsuspecting. "Miss you, baby. Been thinking. Let's get away this weekend. Just you and me. The desert house. Need to disconnect from business stress. Friday night. I'll pick you up at 8. He hit send and imagined Marina reading it, imagined her debating whether to go, imagined her deciding to maintain the appearance of normalcy for one more day before she and her sister went to the embassy. He'd spent 11 months learning how Marina thought, how she made decisions, what mattered most to her. He knew she'd agree because she wouldn't want to raise suspicion before securing her sister's safety. Marina's response came 20 minutes later. "That sounds perfect. I love you." Victor smiled, an expression that never reached his eyes, and typed back, "I love you too, Mahal Ko, pack light, just us and the stars." He set down his phone and spent the next hour making arrangements. He called his estate manager and instructed him to prepare the Alawar property for the weekend, then dismissed all staff by Thursday evening. He called his doctor and requested a prescription for Ambien. Business stress, not sleeping well, and received 60 tablets by courier that afternoon. He called a contact who specialized in cleaning up problems and arranged for that person to be on standby Friday night. Every detail was planned with the precision of someone who'd done this before. Marina spent October 13th and 14th in a state of controlled panic. acting normal while preparing to flee. She told Carmina, Saturday morning, 9 a.m., Philippines Embassy. Bring your passport, anything important. We're going home. She video called her mother and managed to keep her voice steady. Ma, we're coming home soon. Promise. I love you. Tell Paolo I love him. She packed a small bag with documents, photos, her mother's rosary. And she wrote in her diary, a small notebook she'd kept hidden under her mattress, an entry that police would find 3 weeks later, October 14, 2022. If something happens to me, know that I did this for Carmina, for all the girls Victor hurt. He used my love as a weapon, but I'm using it as ammunition now. Victor Kozlov is a monster, and I pray God forgives me for loving him. But I don't regret exposing him. Some things are worth dying for. If I don't make it to the embassy tomorrow, tell Mama I tried. Tell her I finally did something that mattered. Meanwhile, in a villa 3 kilometers away, Victor Kozlov crushed 15 Ambien tablets into powder, mixed the powder with a small amount of water to create a paste, and stored it in a contact lens case that he placed in his pocket. He selected the wine he'd serve Marina, Chateau Margaux 2015, her favorite, $800 per bottle, expensive enough that she'd savor every sip. He programmed the pool lights to create ambience, blue and purple underwater LEDs that would look beautiful and hide the color of drowning. And he rehearsed his performance, practicing the grief and shock he'd display when calling emergency services, perfecting the role of devastated boyfriend who'd tried everything to save the woman he loved. October 15th, 8 p.m. Victor arrived at Marina's apartment in his Bentley Continental GT, dressed casually in linen, carrying flowers he'd bought specifically because Marina had once mentioned she loved stargazer lilies. He knocked on her door with the same knock he'd used 100 times before. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps, their private signal. Marina opened the door wearing a blue sundress, her makeup done, her smile perfect, her eyes hiding the terror she felt. You look beautiful, Victor said, and meant it. She really was beautiful, and he genuinely felt a small regret that he had to kill her. But business was business, and Marina had made herself a threat. Ready for our escape? He asked. I've been looking forward to this all week. Marina lied, and Victor knew she was lying, and Marina knew he knew. And they both performed their roles flawlessly because both their lives depended on maintaining the fiction for just a little longer. They drove east on Emirates Road, away from the city lights, into the desert darkness. Victor talked about their future, lies about buying property in the Philippines, about helping her family, about maybe getting married next year. Marina responded with appropriate enthusiasm, playing the role of girlfriend for the last time, while in her mind she counted down the hours until 9 a.m. when she and Carmina would walk into the embassy and this nightmare would finally end. She noticed Victor taking back roads instead of the highway. She noticed they were driving deeper into areas with no lights, no buildings, no witnesses. She felt the first cold touch of real fear and pushed it down, telling herself she was being paranoid, that in 12 hours she'd be safe, that she just had to survive this one last night. They arrived at the Alawur estate at 9:15 p.m. The property was massive, 5 acres surrounded by high walls, main house, guest house, staff quarters, pool, garden, all of it empty because Victor had dismissed the staff. Welcome to paradise, my love, Victor said, taking Marina's hand and leading her inside. The house was lit with candles, the dining table set for 2, champagne chilling in a bucket. Everything perfect, everything planned, everything designed to make Marina feel safe, right up until the moment Victor killed her. 9:30 p.m. The dining table was set like something from a magazine, white linens, crystal glasses, silver cutlery that caught the candlelight, each detail chosen to create the illusion of romance when the reality was premeditated murder. Victor pulled out Marina's chair with the same gentleman's gesture he'd performed dozens of times, and she sat, her body rigid with tension she tried to hide. The first course arrived already plated, oysters and caviar on ice, arranged with artistic precision by a chef who'd been paid to prepare everything hours earlier and leave before the guests arrived. Victor poured champagne, Dom Perignon rose and raised his glass. To us, he said, his blue eyes holding hers with an intensity that looked like love but was actually curiosity. He was studying her, watching for signs that she knew this was a trap, enjoying the performance they were both giving. To us? Marina echoed, and drank, the champagne tasting like ash in her mouth. They ate in near silence. The only sounds were silverware against porcelain, and the distant hum of the pool filtration system. Victor made small talk about his week, meetings with investors, problems with one of his clubs, stress he needed to escape. Marina responded with the appropriate murmurs of sympathy and support, playing the concerned girlfriend while calculating that in 11 hours and 30 minutes, she'd be at the embassy with Carmina, beyond Victor's reach. The main course was grilled ham hour, a local fish prepared with herbs and lemon, accompanied by roasted vegetables that Marina pushed around her plate, unable to eat more than a few bites because her stomach was twisted with anxiety. At 10 p.m., Victor opened the wine, Chateau Margaux 2015, the bottle he'd selected specifically because Marina had mentioned once, months ago, that it was the best wine she'd ever tasted. He poured her glass first, the dark red liquid catching the candlelight, and in that moment while her attention was on the food, Victor's hand moved with practiced speed. The contact lens case came out of his pocket, opened the Ambien paste, 15 tablets crushed and mixed with just enough water to create a thick liquid, dropped into her wine glass, a quick stir with his finger while pretending to wipe condensation from the bottle. The entire action took 3 seconds. Marina never saw it happen. "This is beautiful, baby," Marina said, accepting the glass, and Victor smiled his most genuine smile because everything was going exactly as planned. "Only the best for you, Mahal Ko. I've been thinking a lot about our future lately, about making things official. Maybe it's time we talked about marriage." He watched her face as he said it, watched her try to hide the revulsion she felt, watched her arrange her features into happiness and surprise. "Really? You mean that?" Marina asked, and hated herself for how easily the lies came now, how thoroughly Victor had trained her to perform. "I do," Victor said. "After this weekend, let's start planning. I want you to be my wife." He raised his glass. "To our future." Marina raised hers and drank deeply, the wine rich and complex, masking the slight bitter aftertaste of 15 Ambien tablets dissolving into her bloodstream. She drank again, wanting the alcohol to numb the fear, not knowing she was swallowing her own death. Victor watched her drain half the glass and refilled it immediately, solicitous and attentive. The perfect, devoted boyfriend. "You seem tense, love. Is everything okay?" he asked, and Marina forced a smile. "Just tired. Work has been stressful. And worried about Carmina adjusting to everything." At the mention of Carmina, something flickered across Victor's face. There and gone so fast Marina almost missed it. A flash of cold satisfaction. "Your sister is doing well," Victor said carefully. "She's learning the business. She'll be fine." The words hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning both of them understood but neither acknowledged. Marina drank more wine, draining the second glass, and Victor refilled it a third time. By 10:25, Marina had consumed approximately 150 milligrams of Ambien mixed with alcohol, a combination that would have killed some people but for Marina, who weighed only 52 kilograms, would cause rapid sedation, muscle paralysis, and respiratory depression within 15 to 20 minutes. At 10:30, Marina felt the first effects. A heaviness in her limbs, her vision blurring slightly at the edges, her thoughts becoming sluggish and disconnected. "Baby, I don't feel well," she said, her words starting to slur. "What did you?" Victor's face changed then, the mask of the loving boyfriend sliding off like a costume he no longer needed. His expression went blank, empty, the eyes of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. "You shouldn't have gone into my office, Marina," he said quietly, his voice stripped of all affection, and Marina felt ice flood through her drugged system as she understood, too late, that she'd walked into a trap. She tried to stand, her body refusing to obey, muscles going limp as the Ambien hit her central nervous system with full force. She fell back into the chair, her head lolling, her vision tunneling. "Victor, please. I'm sorry." The words came out thick, barely comprehensible. Victor stood, walked around the table, and looked down at her with scientific detachment. "Sorry, you photographed my files. You sent them to your journalist friend. You were going to destroy everything I've built. Did you really think I wouldn't know? Did you think I don't have cameras everywhere? He crouched beside her chair, his face level with hers. I loved you, Marina. That was real. But business is business. Marina tried to speak, tried to scream, tried to move, but the ambient had paralyzed her completely. She could hear, could see through blurred vision, could feel Victor lifting her from the chair, but her body was dead weight, unresponsive, a prison trapping her conscious mind. Victor carried her easily. She weighed nothing to him, 52 kilograms of dying woman in his arms, out through the glass doors onto the pool deck. The infinity pool glowed with blue and purple LED lights, the water's surface reflecting stars and creating an illusion of beauty that would hide the horror about to happen beneath it. Victor sat on the pool's edge, holding Marina like a groom carrying a bride over a threshold, and spoke to her in a conversational tone, as if they were discussing dinner plans instead of murder. The desert house is perfect for this. No neighbors for 3 kilometers. No security cameras, officially. No witnesses. When they find you tomorrow, it'll look like you drank too much wine, went for a swim against my warnings, and drowned while I was inside. Tragic accident. I'll cry at the investigation. I'll play the devastated boyfriend perfectly. I always do. Marina's eyes moved, the only part of her body she could still control, tears streaming down her paralyzed face. Your sister will learn from your mistake, Victor continued, sliding into the pool with Marina in his arms, the warm water closing around them both. She'll understand what happens to girls who talk, who betray trust, who try to destroy my business. She'll work her private bookings, send money home to your mother, and never cause problems. And your journalist friend? She's already handled. Her phone was wiped remotely, her laptop seized. She'll be on a plane to Manila by Monday, and she'll never speak about this again because she values her life more than your justice. The water was chest-deep now, Victor standing easily, Marina floating against him, her head above water only because he held it there. I really did love you, Victor said, and for just a moment, something that might have been genuine emotion flickered across his face. You were special, different from the others. If you'd just stayed in your lane, just accepted what you had, we could have had years together. But you had to play hero. You had to save everyone. His hand moved to her forehead, fingers splaying across her skull, his other hand flat against her chest. This will be over quickly. Try not to fight. Fighting just makes it worse. And then he pushed her head underwater. Marina's survival instinct overrode the ambient paralysis, her body convulsing in automatic response to suffocation. But the drug had destroyed her coordination and strength. Her arms flailed weakly, her legs kicked without purpose. Her mouth opened in a silent scream that only drew water into her lungs. Victor held her down with clinical efficiency, his face calm, watching her drown the way a scientist watches an experiment. 0 to 30 seconds. Marina's body fought violently, brain flooding with panic chemicals, consciousness fragmenting. 30 to 60 seconds. Water entered her lungs. She inhaled liquid instead of air, the drowning process beginning in earnest. 60 to 90 seconds. Her movements weakened, brain cells dying from oxygen deprivation, the edges of her vision going black. 90 to 120 seconds. Her body went limp, heart rate dropping, clinical death approaching. Victor held her under for another full minute after she stopped moving, counting slowly. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, until he reached 60 and knew with certainty that Marina Rivera was dead. He lifted her body out of the water, laid her on the pool deck, and arranged her carefully. On her side, one arm extended, wet hair spread around her head like a dark halo, the position of someone who'd climbed out of the pool, collapsed, and died before she could call for help. Victor pulled himself out of the water, stripped off his wet clothes, and stood naked in the desert night, looking at Marina's body with no more emotion than he'd feel looking at a broken appliance that needed to be replaced. He dried himself with a towel from the pool house, dressed in the dry clothes he'd stored there earlier, and threw his wet clothes into the outdoor fireplace, burning the evidence. He knocked over the wine bottle near the pool, letting the remaining Chateau Margaux spill across the tile, a detail that would support the story of intoxication. He took Marina's phone from the table and dropped it on the ground, cracking the screen to suggest she'd stumbled. Every detail was calculated, every piece of evidence arranged to tell the story of tragic accident. At 11:30 p.m., Victor called the number saved in his phone under a single letter, and when the voice answered, he said simply, "It's done. The girl had an accident at my desert property." The voice responded in Arabic, and Victor replied in English, 20 minutes. I'll call emergency services at midnight exactly. Stick to the story. She drank too much. I was inside, heard a splash, found her floating, tried CPR, couldn't save her. The conversation lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, Victor sat beside Marina's body and practiced his grief, arranging his face into expressions of shock and devastation, rehearsing the tremor he'd put in his voice when calling 999, perfecting the performance that would save him from murder charges. At exactly midnight, Victor Kozlov called Dubai Emergency Services, his voice shaking with carefully calibrated panic. "Please help, my girlfriend. She's not breathing. I found her in the pool. I tried CPR, but she won't wake up. Please hurry." The dispatcher asked him to continue chest compressions, and Victor performed them. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths, repeat, knowing Marina had been dead for 48 minutes but needing to maintain the appearance of someone desperately trying to save a life. The ambulance arrived at 12:17 a.m. Paramedics pronounced Marina Rivera dead at the scene. Victor Kozlov collapsed beside her body, sobbing, and every person present believed his grief was genuine. His performance was that good. If you're still watching, if you're still with me on this journey into darkness, I need you to understand something. Marina Rivera died because she tried to do the right thing. She died because she loved her sister more than she feared a monster. She died because the system that should have protected her instead protected her. Murderer, October 16, 2022, 12:17 a.m. The ambulance arrived at Victor's Alawar estate with lights flashing but no siren. The dispatcher had already marked this as a likely DOA, dead on arrival, based on the caller's description of a drowning victim who'd been submerged for an unknown duration. 2 paramedics, both Pakistani men who'd worked Dubai Emergency Services for over a decade, approached the pool deck where Victor knelt beside Marina's body, still performing chest compressions with the mechanical precision of someone who'd taken a CPR class and remembered the rhythm. "Sir, we'll take over," the senior paramedic said, and Victor moved aside, his face a mask of devastation, tears streaming down his cheeks. Real tears, produced by thinking about his mother's death years ago, a trick he'd learned for generating authentic-looking grief. The paramedics worked for 6 minutes, following protocol for drowning victims, checking for pulse, attempting resuscitation, administering oxygen that couldn't reach lungs already filled with pool water and death. At 12:23 a.m., they called it. Time of death, 00:23 hours. Victor made a sound between a sob and a scream, perfectly calibrated grief, and collapsed into a chair while the paramedics radioed Dubai police. Within 12 minutes, a patrol unit arrived, 2 officers, 1 Emirati and 1 Egyptian, who'd been dispatched to what the system categorized as accidental death, low priority. The Emirati officer, a corporal named Salem Al-Ketbi, did the initial assessment while his partner took photos of the scene with a department-issued tablet. The scene told a clear story. Empty wine bottle near the pool, expensive Chateau Margaux, with only 1 glass showing lipstick marks. Woman's shoes scattered as if she'd kicked them off while walking. Cracked phone on the ground, suggesting she'd dropped it. Body positioned as if she'd climbed out of the pool and collapsed on the deck. No signs of struggle, no defensive wounds visible, no indication of foul play. Corporal Al-Ketbi had seen 3 similar deaths in his 8-year career. Expatriates drinking at private villas, swimming alone, drowning before anyone could help. Tragic but common. He took Victor's preliminary statement while waiting for the detective who'd been assigned to the case. Victor's statement was perfect, rehearsed but delivered with enough emotional tremor to seem spontaneous. "We came here for a romantic weekend. Marina's been stressed about her family in Manila, money problems, Her sister just arrived in Dubai and Marina was worried about her adjusting. We had dinner, she drank more wine than usual. She normally only has one glass, but tonight she finished almost the whole bottle. I warned her not to swim, told her she'd had too much to drink, but she said she just wanted to float under the stars for a few minutes. I went inside to clean up from dinner, maybe 20 minutes. When I came back out, she was floating face down in the pool. His voice broke on the last sentence, and he covered his face with his hands. I pulled her out, called 999 immediately, started CPR while waiting for the ambulance. I tried everything. I tried so hard to save her. The corporal took notes, asked standard questions about Marina's mental state. Had she been depressed, suicidal, struggling with anything that might suggest intentional self-harm? Victor played this perfectly. She'd been quieter lately, worried about her sister, about money. Last week she mentioned feeling overwhelmed. I was planning to take her on vacation, help her relax. I never thought. He didn't finish the sentence, letting grief fill the silence where words should be. The corporal closed his notebook. I'm very sorry for your loss, sir. A detective will need to speak with you. Standard procedure for any unattended death. But this appears to be a tragic accident. Detective Khalid al-Hashimi arrived at 1:15 a.m., a 15-year veteran of Dubai Police Criminal Investigation Department, a man who'd investigated over 200 suspicious deaths and developed an instinct for when scenes were staged. He walked the pool deck slowly, photographing everything from multiple angles, noting details that bothered him even though he couldn't articulate why. The wine bottle was expensive, $800, but only Marina's glass had lipstick marks. Victor's glass was clean and used. The phone was cracked but still functional, and when al-Hashimi checked recent calls, he found multiple attempts to reach someone named Carmina, the last one at 7:43 p.m., before Marina arrived at the villa. The pool had no security cameras, unusual for a property this expensive. Most wealthy expatriates had surveillance everywhere. Al-Hashimi interviewed Victor at 1:30 a.m. in the villa's living room, taking detailed notes while studying the businessman's body language, his micro-expressions, the way he told his story. Mr. Kozlov, walk me through the entire evening, starting from when you picked up Ms. Rivera. Victor repeated his statement with minor variations that made it sound natural rather than memorized. Small details about traffic on Emirates Road, Marina commenting on the sunset, their conversation over dinner, about maybe visiting the Philippines next month. Everything was plausible, consistent, delivered with appropriate emotion. But al-Hashimi noticed things. Victor's hands were steady despite his tears. His breathing was controlled. And when he described finding Marina's body, his eyes moved up and to the left, the direction people's eyes typically move when constructing a fiction rather than recalling a memory. Mr. Kozlov, what is your relationship with Ms. Rivera? Al-Hashimi asked, though he already knew the answer from the preliminary statement. She's my girlfriend. We've been together for almost a year. I love her. Loved her. Victor corrected his tense, another perfectly performed detail. And her employment status? She worked, as an entertainer at my club, Velvet Lounge in DIFC. But our relationship was personal, not professional. Al-Hashimi made a note. Was Ms. Rivera upset about anything recently? Any arguments between you? Any problems at work? Any indication she might harm herself? Victor shook his head, tears flowing again. No, nothing like that. She was stressed about money, about helping her family, but she wasn't suicidal. This was an accident. A terrible, stupid accident. The detective interviewed the paramedics, photographed the scene from 47 different angles, collected the wine bottle and glasses as evidence, and made a note to request toxicology analysis during autopsy. By 3 a.m., Marina's body was transported to Rashid Hospital morgue, and Detective al-Hashimi returned to his office with a case file that officially classified the death as suspicious pending investigation, but would likely be ruled accidental. He'd seen similar deaths before. Expatriate workers, usually women, drowning in employers' pools after drinking, with employers claiming they'd been inside when it happened. The pattern bothered him. But without evidence of foul play, without witnesses, without anything beyond a detective's instinct, there was no case to investigate. October 16th, 8 a.m. Victor arrived at his Palm Jumeirah villa after spending the remainder of the night at the Alawar estate, giving additional statements to police, signing paperwork, playing the devastated boyfriend with such conviction that even the coroner's assistant offered him condolences. He fed Boris, made coffee, and opened his laptop to review the security footage one final time, watching Marina's betrayal with the detached interest of someone watching a documentary about someone else's life. Then he made 2 phone calls. The first was to his Emirati business partner, the man whose name was never written down, never spoken in recordings, referred to only as in Victor's contacts. The girl is handled. Police are calling it accidental. What about the evidence? The voice on the other end spoke in Arabic, and Victor's Arabic was fluent enough to understand. The journalist's devices were remotely wiped this morning at 6 a.m. Our contact in telecommunications traced all file transfers from the girl's phone. Everything was sent to one recipient, the journalist Dallas Navarro. Our people visited her apartment at 7:30. She'll be leaving Dubai by end of week. The evidence is contained. Victor felt relief, the only genuine emotion he'd experienced in 24 hours. The sister, under control. We've added $10,000 to her debt for funeral arrangements and family notification. She'll work private bookings twice weekly to pay it off. She understands what happened to her sister, what could happen to her family in Manila if she talks. She won't be a problem. The second call was to Golden Opportunities Employment Services, the recruitment agency that had brought Marina to Dubai. 8 Josie, this is Victor. I need a replacement for Marina Rivera. She had an accident, drowned last night. I need another girl, similar profile, Filipina, mid-20s, willing to work VIP rotation. Yes, as soon as possible. I have a Ukrainian girl I'm considering, but the Emirati clients prefer Filipinas. The recruiter expressed condolences that were barely perfunctory. She'd heard about accidents before, knew what they really meant, and didn't ask questions because asking questions was bad for business. I have 3 girls ready to fly this week. I'll send you their profiles. Meanwhile, across Dubai in a Business Bay apartment, Carmina Rivera sat on her sister's bed, holding Marina's rosary, and tried to process what the club manager had told her 2 hours ago. Your sister had an accident. Drowned at Mr. Kozlov's villa. He tried to save her but couldn't. Very tragic. The funeral will be handled by the company. We're sending her body back to Manila next week. You'll continue working to pay off her remaining debts and the funeral costs. I'm sorry for your loss. Carmina knew immediately that Marina hadn't drowned by accident. Her sister was afraid of deep water, had been since childhood. She never drank more than 1 glass of wine. She'd been planning to go to the embassy this morning, had told Carmina to meet her there at 9 a.m. with her passport. Carmina tried to call Dallas Navarro, the journalist Marina had mentioned, but the number was disconnected. She tried to access Marina's email account, but the password had been changed. She considered going to the police, then remembered what the club manager had said when he'd brought her to Victor's office. Mr. Kozlov wants to express his condolences personally. He also wants to remind you that your mother's address is 47 Maharlika Street, Tanda, Manila. Your brother Paulo attends Tanda High School. These things are on record. Accidents happen everywhere, not just in Dubai. I hope you understand. Carmina understood perfectly. She had 2 choices: work and keep her family safe, or resist and watch everyone she loved die. She chose survival. October 18, 2022. Dr. Hassan Al-Mazrui performed Marina Rivera's autopsy at Rashid Hospital, a routine procedure that took 90 minutes and revealed findings that confirmed the official narrative while hiding the murder beneath medical terminology. Cause of death: drowning, evidenced by water in the lungs, foam in the airways, and pulmonary edema. Contributing factors: blood alcohol content of 0.09%, legally intoxicated by UAE standards. Additional findings: presence of zolpidem, Ambien, in blood toxicology, concentration suggesting 10 to 15 tablets, far exceeding therapeutic dosage. No defensive wounds, no signs of struggle, no bruising consistent with being forcibly held underwater. The doctor's conclusion: accidental death by drowning while intoxicated. Deceased consumed alcohol and sleeping medication, Entered pool, lost consciousness, drowned before she could exit the water. Detective Al-Hashimi read the autopsy report and felt the same nagging doubt he'd experienced at the scene. 15 Ambien tablets wasn't a therapeutic dose. It was a potentially lethal dose. Most people took 1 or 2 for sleep. Why would Marina take 15? And why would she swim after taking sleeping pills? The combination didn't make sense. But the physical evidence supported accident. No trauma, no forced ingestion, no indication that anyone held her underwater. The coroner had ruled it accidental. The investigating officers found no evidence of foul play. Viktor Kozlov's alibi was consistent. He was inside when Marina drowned, tried to save her, called emergency services immediately. Without evidence of murder, the case would be closed. Al-Hashimi made one final attempt to find the truth. He called Marina's sister, asked if Marina had been depressed, suicidal, struggling with anything that might explain taking 15 sleeping pills and swimming while intoxicated. Carmina's voice on the phone was flat, dead. The voice of someone who'd already lost everything and couldn't afford to lose more. My sister loved life. She was trying to help our family. She wouldn't kill herself. But I don't know what happened that night. I wasn't there. Maybe it was an accident like they say. The detective heard what she wasn't saying. Fear, coercion, the unspoken message that she couldn't talk even if she wanted to. He ended the call knowing he'd never solve this case, that Marina Rivera would become another file in his cabinet of deaths that were probably murders but could never be proven. October 20th, 2022. Marina's body was returned to Manila in a sealed casket. Her family told not to open it due to decomposition despite only 4 days passing since death. Rosa Rivera, her mother, stood at the airport receiving the coffin that contained her daughter, and refused to believe the death certificate's explanation. My daughter didn't drink. She was afraid of deep water. Something is wrong. But she was a domestic worker in Tonda with no money, no connections, no ability to investigate what really happened 6,000 kilometers away in Dubai. She buried Marina in a public cemetery, plot number 4472, with no gravestone because gravestones cost money the family didn't have. Paolo dropped out of school to work full-time. Carmina stopped calling home, stopped sending money, disappeared into Dubai's underbelly of trapped women. 3 weeks after Marina's murder, Viktor Kozlov promoted a Ukrainian girl named Svetlana to VIP dancer, moved her into a Business Bay apartment, took her to dinner at Pier Chic, and began the same grooming process he'd used on Marina. Within 2 months, Svetlana believed she was special, different from the other girls, loved. Within 6 months, Viktor would use Svetlana's trust to recruit her younger sister from Kiev. The cycle continued. The business grew. Nothing changed except the names of the dead and broken girls who passed through Viktor's clubs. As of 2024, Viktor Kozlov still operates in Dubai. He's 46 years old, owns 4 clubs across the UAE, and maintains an estimated net worth of $50 million. He's never been charged with a crime. Marina Rivera's case file remains in Dubai Police Archives. Officially closed, ruled accidental death. Carmina Rivera is still trapped in the system, now 25 years old, working private bookings twice weekly, sending no money home because all her earnings go to paying debts that somehow never decrease. She hasn't spoken to her family in 18 months. Rosa Rivera died of heart disease in March 2024, never knowing what really happened to her daughter. Paolo works in a call center in Manila, trying to save enough money to bring his sister home, not knowing she's already too broken to leave. Dallas Navarro works for an anti-trafficking NGO in Manila, can never return to Dubai, and wakes up with nightmares about the friend she couldn't save. The evidence Marina died collecting, 237 photos documenting a trafficking empire, was completely erased, wiped from servers by people with access to telecommunications infrastructure that shouldn't be accessible to private citizens. Not a single image survived. Marina's sacrifice accomplished nothing except her own murder. This is the part of the story that haunts me most. She died trying to do the right thing, and the system protected her killer because money and power matter more than justice. If this story has affected you the way it's affected me, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Make sure Marina's name isn't forgotten. Because the only weapon we have against predators like Viktor Kozlov is exposure, public awareness, refusing to let these crimes stay hidden behind wealth and influence. Marina Rivera died trying to expose a monster. The least we can do is make sure her story is told. Next week, I'm bringing you another case where corruption and power enabled murder. The story of how a Saudi businessman killed his Filipino driver and made it look like suicide, protected by diplomatic immunity and oil money. Until then, remember this: the most dangerous person in your life might be the one who makes you feel special. Trust your instincts. Question too good to be true opportunities. And if you know someone working abroad in entertainment or domestic service, check on them. Ask specific questions. Know the warning signs of trafficking: passport confiscation, debt bondage, movement restriction, threats against family. Contact the International Organization for Migration, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, any organization that can help. Marina Rivera can't be saved, but maybe the next girl can be. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never forget that behind Dubai's glittering facade, women are dying in infinity pools while the world looks away.